What's up you guys, Mo Awesome from Awesome MTB and welcome to the Awesome MTB Short Travel Trail Bike Buyer's Guide. I think this might be one of the funnest bikes I've ever ridden. What's up you guys, Mo Awesome from Awesome MTB and welcome back to the Awesome MTB Short Travel Trail Bike Buyer's Guide. Over the last few months, we have been testing out 7 of the best short travel trail bike on the market. Now these are going to be 29ers with about 120 to 130 millimeters of rear travel, and each one of them has a unique personalities. The goal of the series is to help make the purchase of your next bike a lot easier by giving you guys all of the information you need. And this has probably been one of the funnest bikes out of this test. I'm not going to spoil it too much, so stick around for that, but we have the Transition Smuggler here. This is a video I don't really want to make because that means the test is coming to a close. The Smuggler is 130 millimeter 29ers with 140 millimeters of travel up front. It has about a 65-degree head angle, slightly longer chain stays, a little bit elevated bottom bracket over some other bikes in this test. Overall, a very fun ride out on the trails. Now, Transition's bike coming from Bellingham, Washington, and they are rider owned, and you can tell by how this bike rides out on the trails that the people designing the bikes are the same people that absolutely rip them. Now, this right here is a size extra large frame. I'm 6'2" for reference, about an 805 saddle height, fits me like a glove. This is the XO Transmission Pro build. So up front we have a 140 millimeter travel RockShox pipe with buttercups, and in the rear we have a RockShox Super Deluxe Ultimate rear shock. For the drivetrain, we have an XO transmission group set. For the cockpit, we have 1UP's carbon handlebars, Transition's own Anvil in-house stem. For the dropper post, we have a 1UP component dropper on there, and we have a specialized Pro mirror saddle that I put on there. I normally reserve that specialized saddle for bikes that I absolutely love that I'm riding outside of the test. As you guys can tell, it made it onto this bike, so that says a lot about the Transition Smuggler. For brakes, we have SRAM code RSC brakes, and for wheels, we have Crank Brothers Alloy Synthesis wheels with a Maxxis Assegai tire up front and a Maxxis Dissector tire in the rear. Now, in terms of bike weight, this extra large Transition Smuggler with their XO Transmission Pro build, we're gonna put this on the scale right here. I think about 31.59 pounds, and that is with the pedals that I've been using. And for all you people that like kilograms, we're gonna put it in kilograms, about 14.3 kilograms. Also, if you've been enjoying this video, definitely hit that like button and consider subscribing. It really helps the channel a ton. Now, the bike itself is also somewhat simple. It lacks integrated frame storage as well as integrated cable routing through the stem. A lot of riders will appreciate that. And once again, it kind of goes back to that mentality that they are a rider-owned company. Feel that with Transition bikes, you can tell they know what riders want, and you get that with the Transition Smuggler. Similar to the Sentinel as well as the Spur, it wasn't the fastest uphill, it wasn't the fastest downhill. However, I keep circling back. It was definitely one of the most fun bikes in the test. For now, we're gonna hit the trails quickly, show you guys how the Smuggler performs. I do want to take a quick second and thank the sponsor of this series, Bicycle. Let's face it, you guys, buying and selling used bikes is insanely tough right now, which is why we're stoked to partner up with Bicycle.
If you didn't know, Bicycle is one of the largest online marketplaces where you can go to buy or sell pre-owned bikes. They have more than 30,000 listings on their site, and the best part about it is that the process is insanely easy both for buyers and sellers. Are you in the market for a used bike? No more sketchy meetups at random places. They make the buying process quick, simple, and most importantly, safe. With a no-hassle return policy, if the bike you buy isn't exactly what was shown on the listing, they will take care of you. Plus, get fast and safe payments without having to deal with strangers. Want to sell your used bike? They make the posting process super quick and simple, even helping you come up with a price for a used bike and then sending everything you need to pack and ship the bike up when it sells, as well as a shipping label.
Yes, you heard that correctly. They take care of everything for you, including sending you a shipping box, getting you a shipping label, and even scheduling a pickup with your local delivery service. It really is the easiest way to sell your used bikes.
Recently, they also added a component section to the website, so now you can sell any old bike parts you have that have been lying around or pick up some gear for yourself and save a ton of money.
Once again, you guys, there's never been an easier way to buy or sell used bikes. Now, we all have a bike that's been lying around, we've been meaning to sell it. The cool thing is, Bicycle is actually gonna be waiving 100% of the selling fees during the duration of this buyer's guide. Don't worry if you're here in the future, they still take care of friends of the channel, so be sure to check out the link in the description. Huge thank you to Bicycle for being an amazing platform to buy and sell used bikes. And with that being said, let's get back into the series. Once again, you guys, I can't thank Bicycle enough. This series would not be possible without them. We'll link them in the description, as well as a coupon code for you guys to get you guys 100% off of the seller fees for your listing of your bike during the shootout. And at the end of the shootout, the discount does come down a little bit, so be sure to take advantage of that, but they'll be sure to take care of you either way, and components are always free. Welcome back to another review. Today we have one of the funnest bikes in this test, the Transition Smuggler. I have kind of become a Transition fanboy over the last few tests. First the Spur, then the Sentinel, now the Smuggler. You can tell Transition makes some of the funnest bikes on the market, and the Smuggler is no different. We are on Rocket. You guys know I have my test loops that I basically take the bikes. I mean, I go for fun rides outside the test, but during the test, I just stick to these laps just to show you guys how the bikes ride on similar trails. The Smuggler has been one of those bikes where, man, I don't want to do this test lap. I want to go ride all the trails that I would ride in my personal time. It's just a bike that inspires you to get out there and have a good time. Like I said, one of the funnest bikes in the test. And just in and out of corners, that Giddy-Up suspension works so well. And it does amazing on the pedals as well. Just a fun bike overall. You know, adding to that Giddy-Up suspension, I would say the geo of this thing definitely has a little bit of an aggressive nature to it. You can tell Transition wants you to be able to take this on any trail that you want. And man, even though it's only 130 millimeters of travel, slightly longer chainstays on there in that 65-degree head angle do so well when it gets rowdy. And now we're in the chunk where you can really get a good feel for Giddy-Up suspension. I've always said Giddy-Up, one of the ones that has shocked me the most, just because it really is that good combo of traction through chunk elements like that, but it still has a good pop. And I remember talking to Lars from Transition. He explained to me, a lot of riders up there, they like to jump their bikes, and that's why these Transition bikes still retain that good pop in and out of corners and into lips, but at the same time too, still have that traction element that you would want over chunk, as well as rootier environments. This thing has to be a blast in the PNW, and it is so fun down here in SoCal. Coming into the funnest corners in Laguna, absolute blast for the Smuggler. I will say, in terms of how does this bike compare to some other bikes in this test for overall pedaling efficiency, there are some other bikes in this test that might do a little bit better out of the saddle sprints, but as you guys can tell, this bike definitely still has a good amount of kind of playful feel out of the saddle and a nice pep in its step in and out of these corners. I have to emphasize the fun nature of this thing. What a well-balanced geo front and rear. Nice and long chainstays, but not too long. Nice and long reach, but not too long. And overall, what a fun feel. Just kind of hop off of that into the chunk. Definitely feels very capable for a 130 millimeter trail bike. And you know, it's funny because I'm probably going to make some comparisons, this and the Sentinel, as well as the Spur, which is underneath it. I feel like each one of those bikes has a perfect place in the Transition lineup. This kind of being elements from both the Spur as well as Sentinel. And man, makes for a really well-rounded trail bike, you guys. What a great ride. And now we're on a trail called Lynx, a trail that I think suits the Smuggler really well. Like I said, you guys, I keep going back to Sentinel and Spur, and I feel like each one of those bikes, as well as the Smuggler, has a good place in the Transition lineup. And I like that, because even though each one feels like a Transition bike, they each have their own personality, with this one sharing traits from both of those. Through this section here, a lot of ruts on this section, no issues for that 65-degree head angle. And the Giddy-Up suspension is absolutely loving the high speed down here. And that's where that slightly longer wheelbase is going to help you out stability-wise. When you come into chunky bits like this, the Smuggler just wants to eat. What a great bike, guys. Coming in through this little jump right here. One day, I will learn how to jump And I feel like I could do pretty decently on the Smuggler, but maybe that's the bike just making me feel like a better rider. God, it's so good at cornering. It has such a good snap, as you guys could tell. And then through this bottom section, what a freaking insane bike. Probably one of the most confidence-inspiring down links. An amazing trail. Nice job. I don't think it's a surprise to anyone. I absolutely love the Transition Smuggler. Let's get back and talk about it. All right, as you guys can tell, I had a ton of fun on the Transition Smuggler. Like I said, there's certain bikes that I end up riding. I had this feeling with the Sentinel, I had this feeling with the Spur. They just have this fun element where it doesn't feel like the bikes are trying to win the test. They're just trying to ditch the test and just go have a fun time on their own. And the Smuggler was no different. So the first thing I want to talk about is climbing. The Transition Smuggler is an amazing climber. You can tell this bike comes from somewhere where the climbs are steep and techy. The seat angle is absolutely perfect on this bike. I felt like I was right on top of that bottom bracket, and I also appreciated that the seat angle felt that way at my satellite. I have a very high satellite, about 805, and it still felt like I was on top of that bottom bracket. And yeah, I definitely love the seated climbing profile of this bike. I also like the traction profile of the suspension design. This is Transition's Giddy-Up suspension platform, so definitely a little bit more active than other bikes in this test, and you definitely felt this bike was glued to the ground on tech-style climbs. Out of the saddle, it definitely still had a good amount of pep in its step. Obviously, it's not going to be the most efficient out of the saddle sprints, but that is going to be a huge benefit on more tech style climbs and anywhere where it's loose. Traction is very appreciated from this bike uphill. And once again, that seated pedaling platform is amazing on this bike. All right, now for everyone's favorite part, downhill. This is where the Transition Smuggler put the biggest smile on my face. It is clear that Transition still wants this short travel bike to absolutely rip, and rip it does. It definitely felt like it was one of the more confidence-inspiring bikes out on the trail. I felt similar things on both the Sentinel as well as Spur. It never feels like the frame is holding you back, and you can definitely tell that Transition knows some rowdy riders will be riding their bikes. The frame itself definitely gives you the confidence out on the trails to hit whatever lines you want, and a lot of that confidence definitely comes from the Geo as well. I love the head angle on here, that 65-degree head angle. I like that it has a little bit of a longer chainstay on here as well. You can definitely tell with these shorter travel bikes, going a little bit longer on that rear chainstay gives you that stability you want out on the trails that might be lacking from the travel. Now, I will also say the Smuggler felt very maneuverable in and out of corners. I feel like a lot of that maneuverability is actually coming from that bottom bracket height. It's a little bit higher than other bikes in this test. Combine that with a slacker head angle, slightly longer chainstays, and once again, it's that magic combo. You get the stability on high speeds descents, but you still get the ability to kind of play around with this bike in and out of corners and maneuver your way down the trails, especially when it starts to get tight and twisty. I also love the suspension feel on the downhills. Giddy-Up is quickly becoming one of my favorite fun suspension designs, especially when you want to just get out there, have a blast. It has a ton of traction, but it's got this really good push feeling in and out of corners where you're definitely rocketing out of the corners, but on bigger hits, it's very controlled. And I feel like that's the most important thing, especially on these shorter travel trail bikes. If you're gonna be taking these bikes on more gravity-oriented trails, you don't wanna feel like, oh, I'm just on my short travel trail bike, I can't hit that trail. The Giddy-Up suspension gives you a very controlled feeling out there where you can take the wrong line, but at the same time too, it still feels like a short travel trail bike when you want to, and feel like I'm equally happy taking this on my local green or blue trail, as well as hitting blacks and double blacks. And I feel like it's a very good one bike do-all quiver. Another thing I absolutely love about this bike, and I think a lot of riders will appreciate, is how simple it is. I personally am starting to lean away from internal frame storage. I don't use it. I like that it's not on this bike, and I also like that the cables aren't integrated into the headset. It's just one of those things that overall, when you look at this bike, it's very clean. Also, in terms of sound, it was probably one of the most silent bikes out of the test. Now, what are some things I didn't necessarily love about the Transition Smuggler? Suspension design. Some riders might want a little bit more of an efficient pedaling platform, especially out of the saddle. If you're that type of rider that you're trying to get more of an XC bike that can still handle enduro trails, it's definitely not the most efficient out of the saddle pedaler out of the test. There are some bikes with better pedaling platforms. However, it still holds its own in terms of climbing as well as pedaling, and it's a ton of fun on the descents. Something to keep in mind, the bike does have an overall lower stack height. So if you are going to be cutting your fork or buying this bike stock, just make sure that you have enough spacers under the stem. This bike came stock straight from Transition, and there wasn't as many spacers underneath the stem as I would prefer. I like high stack heights. So yeah, that is something to keep in mind there. I actually do want to try this bike out with a Lyric or Diamond 36. So I actually might put another fork on here, and that would allow me to get the bars even higher. That is something to keep in mind there. If you do like higher stack heights, the bike itself does has an overall lower stack height stock. Who do I think the Transition Smuggler is for? It is for that rider that just wants a fun bike. They know they want that short travel trail bike, but at the same time too, they don't want to be limited in terms of what trails they ride. They might still want to dabble in a little bit of bike park. They might still want to ride their occasional double black trails, but they know that they want that short travel trail bike. This is the bike for you. It's just one of those no nonsense fun bikes that you can take out of the box straight to the trails and have a blast on. You're not going to spend too much time worrying about setup or figuring out what creaks. It's simple. Keyword simple and fun. How did this bike compare to some other bikes in this test? You guys are gonna have to stick around to the conclusion video of this series coming soon. So be sure to subscribe and hit that like button. It really does help the channel a ton. And let me know in the comment section if you guys have any questions about the Transition Smuggler. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and until next time, you guys, ride awesome. You.